Okay, here we go. We are going to do some basic pen tool and learn how to use that tool. Your pen tool is located over here, and if I click and hold, you'll notice that there are several tools in the pop-out palette. You have your regular pen tool, the freeform pen tool, an add anchor point tool, a delete anchor point tool, and a convert point tool. All right. Well, what is an anchor point? Well, if I have my pen tool and I click, that is an anchor point. If I click again, a line is drawn between these two anchor points. If I click and drag, I get another line, but this one's curved based on these handles right here. The Add Anchor Point tool allows me to add another anchor point. And of course, the Delete Anchor Point tool allows me to delete anchor points. Now, the nice thing about paths and the pen tools are these are vector-based. They're mathematically defined. So they're resolution independent. You can size them any size that you want, and they're perfect. Anyway, if I want to get rid of all of this that I've created with the path tool, you'll notice I have a work path over here in my paths palette. I can either click on that and hit delete, or I can trash it just like I would a layer. Anyway, so that's what an anchor point is. Let's get our pen tool and let's make a square. So the little asterisk by the pen means I'm about to start a work path. So when I click, you'll notice that a work path has been added over here. I'm going to click this corner, and this corner, and this corner, and then when I get back to the first anchor point, you'll notice that there's a little circle by the pen tool, which means when I click on this anchor point once again, it will be completed. In other words, I'll complete the path at that point. And so now I have a path. Let's go to the layers, and I'm going to turn off this and see how I did. Well, not too bad. I was pretty close, but it's not perfectly a square. So how do I adjust that? Well, I use one of these tools over here. I have a path selection tool that if I choose it and click on my path, it highlights all the anchor points and allows me to move the entire path around. All right. The other one, the white arrow tool, or the direct selection tool, I'm going to click off, so I deselect it and then click on it with this tool. You'll notice that the anchor points are no longer black, they're hollow, which means that I can click on an individual anchor point and just move that one around. Now, I can finesse with my mouse until I get it just right, but sometimes it's easier just to use the arrow key. So I've clicked on it, and now I'm going to use my down arrow key to make that one straight. And now I have a perfect square. Turn back on my layer. I've moved it a little bit off of the shape, so I'm going to get my path selection tool, click outside to deselect with that, and then click on it so I can just use the arrow keys to nudge it back into place. Okay, back to the paths palette. So now I have a work path with a square. I'm going to name it left shape. And now I want to create a new path for the center shape. We're going to end up with 3 different path layers here. So I'm going to click down here, create a new path. You can also get to it here and grab my pen tool once again, and I'm going to start my new path. Now, one trick I didn't do on the last shape is that if I hold my shift key down and click, I will get a perfectly horizontal or vertical line depending on which direction I'm going. And so that's a perfectly horizontal line. Now, most people prefer to work around a shape, and so I'm going to show you the easy way to do that. What you want to do, you say, okay, where do I click my next path point? I mean, a lot of people go click, 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 and they put like 100 path points along the way. You want to avoid that. You want to use as few anchor points as possible. And what I tell people is pretend like you're climbing a hill, and when it starts to change directions, like right about here, that's where you want to click your next point. So I'm going to click my point there, and I get a straight line, but I'm keeping my mouse button held down. And then I start dragging. And it's like a teeter-totter. I can move this so that the path is, whoops, I need to unclick there. Okay, so that's done. Now I can move again where this changes directions again, and you'll notice that I got somehow an extra point there. That's really not what I wanted to do. So you can come here and you can delete an anchor point. There we go. Now I can use that direct selection tool to do this, but you notice what's happening? Moving that lever is really moving both handles. Let me get my direct selection tool again and show you what I mean. So this has a handle, and that point is the fulcrum. And so if you can get the shape just exactly right, you're good to go. On the next one, I'll show you what happens if you don't get it exactly right. So I'm going to click here and get my pen tool again so I can continue on my path. I'm going to hold my shift key down, and there's my next straight line. All right. And so now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click there, keep my mouse held down. I'm going to drag, and then I'm going to click there to close it. But you'll notice that I'm a little off on that side. So I'm going to get my direct selection tool and click. And I'll click on that point. It looks like I need to move it down just a little tiny bit. And you'll notice now that I'm a little off on both sides there. Let me zoom in a little closer so you can see. So on our pen tool, that's what this convert point tool does. If you go to a handle, you can move the one side of the handle without affecting the other side. So you can get that just perfect. A little bit off right there. I can click and drag out handles there if that helps, or I can just move it a touch. That seems to work. Okay, so now I've got that shape with a path. I'm going to click outside of it, and I'm going to delete it and show you a whole nother way to do the same thing using shortcut keys. So here I go. I'm going to start my path all over again. Hold my shift key down. Go up to where it's starting to top out there. Drag out until I have that just perfect. Come down to this point, and it's a little bit off. Now if I hold my Option key down, you'll see that when I hover over that handle, that it turns into that Convert Point tool, and I can readjust. Now I'm going to go down, hold my Shift key down. There's my straight line. I'm going to go to where I start to top out over the hill in the land down under here, and try and get that point just perfect. Okay, pretty close. Now here's another trick. If I hold my Option key down and click on that point, that deletes the handle on this side, and so now I can come and click that point to close it and drag from here without affecting the other side. Whoops, my mouse doesn't want to let go. If I hold my Command key down, it turns into the direct selection tool, and so now I can click on a curve I can click on a point and move it if I want, and so you have precise adjustments over that. Very good. So now I have that shape done. I'm going to double click on it and name it Center Shape. And we'll do a new shape, or a new path. Press P for the Pen tool. That's the shortcut key. We'll start one. I'm holding my Shift key down. I'm going to drop down the slide here until it starts to change directions. I'm going to drag till I get it just right. Hold my Option key down and click on that point. Go up to the top of the other side and drag. And adjust the handles till I have that just, whoa. My trackpad doesn't want to click all of a sudden. Now I'm going to hold my Option key down and click on that point, and I'll hold my Shift key, and that gives me a straight line from there to the bottom, and then I'll close and complete the shape. Now I'm going to turn off the layers, and I'm going to hold my Command key down and click. That gives me the direct selection tool. I'm going to use my arrow keys to nudge that down a pixel, and I have it perfect. So now I will name this shape Right Shape. We'll want to save this as a Photoshop file. And you're going to call this pentool01.psd, and just save it aside for a little bit. Click OK, and we've got it.